Hello, everyone. It's Victoria with Nutrition by Victoria. I have a Master's of Science in Human Nutrition, a Bachelor's of Science in Biology, and I specialize in helping you to build a high functioning metabolism so that you can effortlessly lose weight and sustain it. So, we're talking about maintaining a effortlessly lean body for the rest of your life with the health to go along with it. Okay. And with that, an ever increasing fitness level because we're providing the foundation for that to happen, regardless of your age and genetics. So everyone can experience an incredible metabolism that will keep them lean, fit, and healthy for life by just following the basics and understanding how the human metabolism works. So I go over all of that in my coaching program. Link to purchase is in the description of this video. Thank you so much for those of you who did purchase the program while it was on sale. I really appreciate you, and you now have the secret to the holy grail, the fountain of youth. Okay, so what is included in the coaching program is understanding how the human metabolism works and then applying it to your everyday life so that you can build a diet and lifestyle that creates a high functioning metabolism and, most importantly, insulin sensitivity, because that is the key. Okay, so in today's video, we are going to be talking about some of these carnivore doctor folks who are misleading their audience and really offering dangerous advice, because following a carnivore diet is not only unsustainable, but it creates damage to your body, metabolic damage that leads to the development of insulin resistance and a whole host of other chronic diseases like heart disease, cancer, diabetes, all of the leading killers worldwide. So today we are going to investigate some of these doctors and their advice. So I have a lot of fun information in store for you guys. So I hope you enjoy the video. So the first little short we are going to watch is Steak and Butter Gal interviewing Dr. Ken Berry. I actually never heard of this guy before, but apparently he is a medical doctor, a family physician. And something that I want you guys to keep in mind while we're going through this and talking or listening to these carnivore doctors talk is that doctors in general have very minimal training in nutrition. Okay. They do not have the level of education that I have in regards to metabolism and nutrition. I took a course that is recommended for doctors to take post medical school to further their education, or in my case is just to be a clinical nutritionist. Okay, so in medical school you either receive zero nutrition training or just a few hours, and that is verified by doctors that I personally know, friends and family members. So we are going to go ahead and see what Steak and Butter Gal and Ken Berry have to say about honey and fruit on the carnivore diet.
What are your thoughts on honey and fruit on the carnivore diet?
So, full disclosure, I love fruit and I love honey. Honey and coffee? Yes. But I fatten very easily and I develop type 2 diabetes very easily. And if I enjoyed as much fruit as I just wanted to, and I put as much honey in my coffee as I wanted to, in just a few months, I would gain 20, 30, 40 pounds, and I would be pre-diabetic again. Honey is not just fructose. It also contains sucrose and glucose. They are going to raise your hemoglobin A1C to some degree. You're causing lots of glycation that will not show up on your hemoglobin A1C. And so also the sugar is going to raise your blood sugar. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to raise your insulin. That's going to lead to all the problems that hyperinsulinemia is connected to.
What are your
Okay, so there was a lot of misinformation about carbohydrates shared in this video. So we'll go ahead and just break it down. I actually did a remix to this short up on my channel, just talking about how this guy, if he's experiencing that level of weight gain from adding fruit and honey to his diet, he has insulin resistance. All right, so we're going to go through that again, and I'm going to add my commentary.
Thoughts on honey and fruit?
The first thing I want to mention is that he looks rather inflamed in comparison to Steak and Butter Gal. He just has this very red appearance, and I notice this a lot amongst the people who either eat carnivore or they are eating an animal-based diet, and this is likely due to inflammation and or exogenous hormone usage.
On the carnivore diet.
So full disclosure, I love fruit and I love honey.
Look at how Steak and Butter Gal is like excited, like, oh my gosh, we're talking about carbohydrates. Like, and him in particular, Dr. Ken is like, oh my gosh, I really wish I could eat sugar. I wish I could eat carbs. I wish I could eat fruit and honey. And all they're doing is suppressing their metabolism by avoiding it. And then it really, this is like a disordered eating. This is an eating disorder, like pandemic now with this carnivore diet promotion.
Honey and coffee? Mm-hmm. Yes. But I fatten very easily and I developed type 2 diabetes very easily.
So getting fat off of carbohydrates indicates that de novo lipogenesis is at play. And what upregulates de novo lipogenesis more than anything is being insulin resistant. And that's what a high fat diet creates.
Easily. And if I enjoyed as much fruit as I just wanted to, and I put as much honey in my coffee as I wanted to, in just a few months, I would gain 20, 30, 40 pounds, and I would be pre-diabetic again.
Now, that is likely the case. Unfortunately, that is called a metabolic damage rebound or adaptive thermogenesis. So I went through this myself, coming from a lot of fasting, low carb dieting. And I just went all in on the fruit, eating as much as I wanted. I gained 60 pounds. In this time, though, I reset my metabolism. Once I hit my weight plateau, my weight gain plateau, it's come down and now I'm a lean bean, as you guys saw at the beginning of this video. And I eat, 3,500 calories of mainly carbohydrates a day. I just keep my fat intake low. So that is the key here. If you want to be able to eat unlimited carbs and be slim and healthy, you have to ditch the animal products, which raise your IGF-1, which increases insulin resistance and tumor cell growth. And, there's a lot of problems with eating animals as humans. And we're going to get more into that as we delve further into this video. But what's important to note is that the weight comes down after you increase the metabolism. By avoiding carbohydrates, you decrease the metabolism, you decrease the metabolic rate, which translates to your ability to generate energy is lowered, is hindered. Okay, that's what happens when you follow these style of diets. You regulate ketosis as well as gluconeogenesis in order to encourage energy production in the absence of glucose, but this lowers the metabolic rate and it also damages our system. But recovery is possible, Dr. Ken. You can see me. Link is in the description for my coaching, and I will get you straightened out so that you can have the best results eating all the carbohydrates that you desire.
Honey is not just fructose. It also contains sucrose and glucose.
Honey is a monosaccharide, or no, it's a disaccharide. No, sucrose is a disaccharide. Honey contains disaccharides like sucrose. Sucrose is comprised of pretty much a 50-50 split of glucose to fructose, as is table sugar, as is fruit. These are all considered to be your simple sugars. And, Dr. Paul Saladino did a video saying honey and sugar are not the same thing. Yes, they are, molecularly speaking. But let's go ahead. Just wanted to talk a little science with you guys. But fructose and glucose, the combination of them are like magic, okay? Because fructose bypasses insulin. You don't need insulin in order to assimilate fructose, which is advantageous for people who are dealing with insulin resistance and you're trying to become more insulin sensitive because you can utilize it without insulin. And glucose requires insulin, but it also helps make insulin more efficient. And just for reference here, because you guys know I love referencing this study, the dietetic factors influencing the glucose tolerance and the activity of insulin, that sugar tolerance is impaired by starvation, aka carbohydrate restriction, or the taking of diets with a high content of fat, while it is improved by taking diets containing an excess of carbohydrate. That was determined by H.P. Hemsworth, the father of the glucose tolerance test in 1934. So, I'm not sure that these people actually do any research. I think that a lot of this is that they are literally shills for big animal agricultural industry, because that is what is trending right now. But also, as people are starting to realize that the way that they eat impacts their health, it threatens that industry in particular. Because if you're not having people buy the product, then the industry is going to inevitably fail. So if people think eating animals is bad for them, they're not going to eat them. So these people are here to tell you that, yeah, eat animals, eat exclusively animals, and get your all those burger patties from McDonald's and In-N-Out Burger, and get your factory farmed grain fed meat because it's fattier. This is good for your body. Every single person that I've worked with who has done the carnivore diet and or an animal-based diet all experiences an elevated lipid profile. Actually, Dr. Sean Baker was just on showing people that his cholesterol level was 270, and then he was trying to say that that is metabolically healthy, and trying to reference some data that is not the standard, okay? And it never will be the standard. Having that number for your cholesterol puts you at risk for heart disease, okay? His ApoB is likely high too. That's what Paul Saladino showed when he did an online interview with a cardiologist. He had heart disease risk factors, and that is inevitably where you're headed when you eat this kind of a diet, or you eat a mixed diet that contains a fair bit of animal products as well. And then where do you go from there? You end up with heart disease, and then you're in the medical system. So really that's what these people are doing, is they're literally taking vulnerable people who are trying their best to lose weight, because the information that we've received about weight loss over the last 30 years has been not what it takes to lose weight, as we just saw in the dietetic factors influencing glucose tolerance. In order to lose weight, you have to be insulin sensitive, okay? High carb, low fat, calorie sufficient diet. What they're promoting is insulin resistance, an insulin resistance promoting diet, a high fat, no carb, low carb diet, which makes someone insulin resistant and then opens the door to the rest of the chronic diseases that will further develop from there based on your genetics and your other lifestyle factors. So if you want to stay out of this rat race, you got to get the right information, and that's what I'm here to provide for you.
You're going to raise your hemoglobin A1C to some degree. You're causing lots of glycation.
Okay. Dr. Ken just said that carbohydrates cause glycation. Well, I don't think that he's read this study. And these studies I'm showing are peer-reviewed clinical research studies. This is from the National Library of Medicine. Advanced glycation end products in food and a practical guide to their reduction in the diet. I'll put links for these studies in the description of this video if you'd like to check them out for yourself. Modern diets are largely heat processed and as a result contain high levels of advanced glycation end products. Dietary advanced glycation end products are known to contribute to increased oxidant stress and inflammation, which are linked to the recent epidemics of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. Okay, this report significantly expands the available AGE database. So they list foods and their AGE rating levels in this research study. Okay. Animal-derived foods that are high in fat and protein are generally AGE rich and prone to new AGE formation during cooking. In contrast, carbohydrate-rich foods such as vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and milk contain relatively few AGEs even after cooking. So, do carbohydrates contain a high level of AGEs? No. Okay, so advanced glycation end products, also known as glycotoxins, are a diverse group of highly oxidant compounds with pathogenic significance in diabetes and in several other chronic diseases. Okay, AGEs are created through a non-enzymatic reaction between reducing sugars and free amino groups of proteins, lipids, or nucleic acids. This reaction is also known as the Maillard or Browning reaction. The formation of AGEs is a normal part of metabolism, but if excessively high levels of AGEs are reached in tissues and the circulation, they can become pathogenic. So what this doctor and many other of the carnivore doctors who reference glycation and saying that sugar causes glycation are referring to the reducing sugars that combine with the free amino acid groups of proteins, lipids, or nucleic acids that create this AGE reaction. Okay, so you're basically not reading the information and you're just cherry picking what you want to support what it is that you're promoting. Okay, but clearly if you read this research article, it says that animal foods high in fat and contribute the most to AGE formation. And if we go down to the list here, the food that is the highest on this list in AGEs is dun, 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 bacon at 91,000 in comparison to sugar, which has an AGE rating of, I got to go all the way down. Where is it? Right here. White sugar has a 0 AGE rating. So is it causing glycation? No. What is high fat animal foods?
Mama.
That will not show up on your hemoglobin A1C. And so
now he said that glycation won't show up on your hemoglobin A1C. What is he even talking about? Okay. A hemoglobin A1C can appear normal in some of these carnivore people, even though they've laid the foundation for insulin resistance and they have a high intake of AGEs. Where it shows is with a glucose tolerance test, your true level of insulin resistance versus insulin sensitivity, because a glucose tolerance test tests for your sensitivity to sugar. Okay, so the more insulin sensitive you are, the less your insulin needs are. The higher the more insulin resistant you are, basically you can't pass the glucose tolerance test. That means that your insulin needs are higher. Okay.
So the sugar is going to raise your blood sugar. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's going to raise your insulin. That's going to lead to all the problems that hyperinsulinemia is connected to.
Okay, this information is just flat out wrong. They use a concentrated glucose solution to test for insulin resistance via the oral glucose tolerance test. Okay, I did like a test on myself this morning. I took my fasting blood glucose, which was an 88, and then I drank orange juice mixed with sugar, and then I tested my glucose about an hour and a half later, and my glucose level was 83. It was lower than my fasting. which means that I'm very insulin sensitive and that I don't have insulin resistance. Okay. Now, if these people took an oral glucose tolerance test, they would not be able to pass it because they are insulin resistant from the diet that they're eating. Insulin is always looked at as a bad thing when in fact it just needs to work efficiently. It's like a key and a lock. Okay. It lets glucose into the cell. If you have too much fat in the cell, insulin's not going to be able to let glucose in, and then you're going to just be pumping out more and more insulin because the cell's going to signal to the pancreas that we don't have enough glucose, and then the body's going to start using gluconeogenesis to try to get glucose into the cell to generate energy. So big, and this all leads to diabetes development, and and it all starts with this insulin resistance. Okay, you want to have a low fat diet so that insulin can just turn the lock, let the glucose in, it all flows in, clears the blood glucose levels out just very nicely and maintains everything in even keel. So what these people are promoting is absolute nonsense and misinformation that is not backed by any scientific literature. Okay, so now we are going to take a look at this guy, Anthony Chafee. So we're going to listen to his video now here.
Just having low insulin levels will also let you go through autophagy, because it's not the lack of food and starving yourself that triggers autophagy. It's just the lack of insulin blocking autophagy. Insulin doesn't just affect energy mobilization and energy going into your cells. Insulin affects over 100 different mechanisms in your body. And so when you elevate that with a high carbohydrate diet, you are elevating that insulin, and now it's out of balance for all these different mechanisms, including autophagy. So now that stops autophagy. You can't replace your old damaged precancerous cells. You're not going to replace out your old damaged mitochondria and other organelles, and they're just going to continue to break down and degrade, and you're going to get metabolic dysfunction and disease. Just having
Okay, so it's very common that these carnivore doctors take legitimate information, like what he's talking about, autophagy and low insulin levels. So autophagy is what is the rage being talked about in a lot of reels by a lot of doctors in regards to fasting, and how when you fast, you lower your insulin levels and you promote autophagy, which is basically getting rid of diseased and damaged cells in place so that new ones can, regenerate and keep your body healthy and young and, all of that good stuff. So what is misleading here, though, is that the diet that he suggests, or avoiding carbohydrates, of course, inherently causes high insulin levels when we know that is not true. Now, what's really interesting here is I do get a lot of questions about fasting and should I do fasting, especially since it's all the rage right now. Fasting and this carnivore diet go hand in hand, right? So that people can decrease their risk for cancer, or maybe they already have cancer and they want to slow down the progression of it. Well, what diet do you think actually promotes low insulin levels and autophagy naturally? It's going to be the high carb, low fat diet. So you can literally mimic the effects of fasting, the beneficial effects of fasting, with a high carb, low fat, sufficient, but, not too much protein diet, and get the same kind of promotion of autophagy and protection against chronic disease, because you're literally eating in a way that encourages your body to be insulin sensitive. So you have low circulating insulin levels. And what that simply means is that your body is really good at taking sugar that you consume that gets in your blood and putting it into your cells via insulin. So you're not overproducing insulin. You're just using the right amount in order to take that fuel and put it in your cells for energy production.
Low insulin levels will also let you go through autophagy, because it's not the lack of food and starving yourself.
So he's right there. It's not the lack of food and starving yourself that
triggers autophagy. It's just the lack of insulin blocking autophagy.
So this is really important for those of you who are proponents of fasting, who believe in fasting and the benefits of fasting, that you literally don't need to fast. And fasting in itself, according to the dietetic factors influencing the glucose tolerance and the activity of insulin, starvation, fasting, avoiding carbohydrate encourages insulin resistance because it impairs sugar tolerance. Basically, you don't have any glucose coming in through the diet. Your body is going to, when it does have sugar come in and carbohydrates come back into the diet, because it's inevitable, our bodies require glucose in order to generate energy. So if it's not coming in through the diet, we're going to use our backup mechanisms like gluconeogenesis. But gluconeogenesis programs us to be insulin resistant, so that when the carbohydrates do come back in, we store them as fat. Okay. And that's the purpose of those processes, encouraging insulin resistance, so that we can store fat, so that we can survive the famine. Okay. Very important to understand these things, because you don't need to do any of this stuff to your body. You don't need to shock your body in any kind of a way. You just need to do your overnight fast, eat plenty of carbohydrates at breakfast, lunch, and dinner the next day so that you refill your glycogen stores. Go overnight, do your overnight fast, and you're running on your glycogen. Okay. And then you wake up the next morning and you refill your glycogen. So then you're never bonking. You're never running into gluconeogenesis. Remember that gluconeogenesis is the gateway to insulin resistance and diabetes. Drugs like metformin are taken so that you can bypass gluconeogenesis. Okay. We've talked about this before, because gluconeogenesis is where diabetes happens. Okay. When we're using that physiological process. Okay. I just want to pull that up real quick. Metformin inhibits hepatic gluconeogenesis, which is basically the formation of glucose from non-glucose substrates in the liver, okay, such as amino acids and lactate. And that's something else that's important to understand, is that if you are eating a low carb, high protein diet, you are converting that protein into glucose, okay, via gluconeogenesis, which programs your body to be insulin resistant, okay? And then you're going to tap into your muscle stores of protein. Your muscles don't store protein, they just are protein. You're going to break down your muscle tissue to supply amino acids for glucose production. You do this even when you're in ketosis too, because ketosis cannot provide 100% of your demand for energy, particularly for the brain, because ketones can't bypass the blood-brain barrier. Okay, only glucose can. So you're still running gluconeogenesis even when you're in ketosis. So insulin resistance in the post.
Insulin doesn't just affect energy mobilization and energy going into your cells. Insulin affects over 100 different mechanisms in your body. And so
he's basically like telling you, legitimate information, and then
elevate that with a high carbohydrate diet, you are
telling you that you elevate your insulin with a high carb diet. Now, the people who generally present with insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes are consuming a combination of carbohydrates and fats and protein generally. Fat intake's too high. They may or may not have done a carbohydrate restrictive diet previously. There's generally some kind of history of calorie restriction involved, and there's always an intake of too much dietary fat for a person who presents with insulin resistance, because you're running that gluconeogenic metabolic pathway, which means that you're, one, either starving yourselves of sugar, or two, eating too much fat. It's usually a combination of the two.
We're elevating that insulin, and now it's out of balance for all these different mechanisms, including autophagy. So now that stops autophagy.
So basically, when you have insulin resistance, you are not participating in autophagy, which is going to be the majority of people, and then they're trying to simulate autophagy by fasting, avoiding carbohydrates, because you're listening to this guy and other people talking about fasting and low carb eating for autophagy promotion, when all you have to do is eat a high carb, low fat diet.
You can't replace your old damaged precancerous cells. You're not going to replace out your old damaged mitochondria and other organelles, and they're just going to continue to break down and degrade, and you're going to get metabolic dysfunction and disease. Just having looked.
Right. So the solution here is to eat a diet that promotes insulin sensitivity. So high carb, low fat diet. What else promotes insulin sensitivity? Exercising, getting enough sleep at night, not using caffeine. But most importantly is just giving your body enough carbohydrates so that you're not having to run your survival metabolic machinery in order to get through your day to day when you're not in a survival situation. Okay, so let's see what I have next here. Okay, yeah, so I want to just show this video real quick. You guys are gonna think this next one is funny. Okay, I got to get past the ads here. Oh my goodness, the ad for the toilet paper. Okay, I don't even need to play the volume on this video. We're just going to take a look at Ken Berry here for a second. Okay, now this is him doing his carnivore diet, right? He has abdominal fat. That's what I'll call it. He has a pooch. He has a stomach pooch. He has cortisol belly. He is presenting with insulin resistance in his aesthetic. Okay. That's just something to keep in mind when listening to these people. Now, Anthony Chafee, I would bet money that he is taking exogenous hormone therapy, just based on his appearance and his size. But the other thing with eating a carnivore diet, a high fat, high protein diet, is it does elevate IGF-1, which is an anabolic hormone. So it increases insulin levels and increases insulin like growth factor 1. So it is going to allow you to put on more mass, but it also increases tumor cell growth as well. Okay, let's see what else I had for you guys today. Okay. Oh, yes. So I want to play this video too by McDougall, just verifying that, sugar lowers insulin needs. So we're going to fast forward here. Okay. This video is up on my channel. I can post a link for it in the description of this video as well.
The consumer and scientists and medical doctors to get straightened out. And it should have been straightened out in the 1920s when a fellow by the name of Percival Himsworth published his basic research, and it was all published by 1940 in the British Medical Journal. And it's just no question about it. Fat, we're talking about pig fat, cow fat, olive fat, paralyzes insulin, increases insulin needs, carbohydrate, including pure white sugar, increases the sensitivity to insulin. It was published by Brunzell from the University of Washington in the New England Journal of Medicine in, I think, 78. Brunzell's his name. He took type 2 diabetics. He made a synthetic diet, 45% sugar, and then doubled white sugar, multidextrose, plain table sugar, doubled it to 85% white sugar. Every aspect of the diabetes improved. Walter Kempner, back in the 40s and 50s, published his results on treating type 2 diabetics with rice, table sugar, fruit, and juice. And Kempner knew back in the 50s that sugar makes insulin work better and cures diabetics. But you see, we've got it entirely backwards these days, thinking sugar causes diabetes You know, it's so backward and bizarre. Nobody stands a chance. So we got to get this one simple fact down that has been established. Even in diabetes care 2 years ago, they took type 1 diabetics. They dramatically increased their white sugar intake and decreased the insulin needs of type 1 diabetics. It's always been the same, but everybody knows different. Don't eat potatoes, turns to sugar, makes you fat, gives you diabetes. It's exactly the opposite in terms of ultimate disease outcome.
All right, so OG late Dr. John McDougall sharing the truth. You know, I am just curious if these medical doctor carnivore people do any research or if they are purely just shills for the industry. Also, are they still practicing? Because I mean, you can make a lot of money as a doctor, but you know, if you have a really big social media following too, like what a lot of these guys have on YouTube right now, they could be making bank doing that as well. So, and that is, you know, an easier job, less stressful. But just sad, you know, that the level of misinformation that is being promoted so strongly that is just harming people, you know, is really sad. Okay, so the last thing that we are going to do is to just wait, I had one more video for you guys. And it was with Chafee. Okay. I think we got to go to his channel. It's the debate. Are humans carnivores? Okay. We are going to have a basic biology class, biology anatomy class. Okay. All thanks to Anthony Chafee here and his wonderful influence. Okay, here we go. Why humans are actually carnivores.
Stretching.
Okay, we got to add. Okay, ready, guys?
Why do you think carnivore is the best diet for human health?
Well, I think just basically it aligns with our biology. It's our biologically evolved or designed diet, however you.
Okay. So, Anthony Chafee, are you a cat? Because you don't look like one, but you do look like you could be taking exogenous supplement therapy. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and take a look here. What does a carnivore look like, or its characteristics? Okay, so if you just put in Google search carnivore characteristics, you get a picture of a lion and a carnivorous plant here. So characteristics of carnivorous animals include specialized dentition for hunting and killing prey. Okay. Fast movement to chase and tire their prey, sharp teeth and claws, shorter and simpler digestive tracts compared to herbivores, and status as a predator. Okay, so let's just go back to this video. Can you guys tell me if Anthony Chafee has claws or sharp teeth? Ready?
You want to look at it, but either way, we're biologically adapted to eat meat.
I don't see anything. Do you guys? He looks like he has teeth that are flat and also, you know, normal nails like a human. Okay. Oh gosh, this is just funny. So I actually took an anatomy and physiology class in, oh no, it was comparative anatomy when I was getting my biology degree. And we literally were talking about how to determine if something is a carnivore, an omnivore, or an herbivore. And so on this little chart here, we've got humans, frugivores, so this is going to be your primates, an herbivore, an omnivore, and a carnivore. And if you look at our dentition, it's going to be more similar to a frugivore more than anything, but also the herbivore, okay? But I don't see anything that looks even somewhat similar to a carnivore or an omnivore. And I also have dogs. I have 2 dogs. I've always had dogs. My dogs will eat roadkill. My dogs will eat fecal matter. My dogs will eat vomit. my dogs will also kill an animal. They've killed bunnies in their dog area, and they actually haven't eaten them. They just kill them and then wait for my husband to come get it and dispose of it. So it's like a prize, right? But if they were in the wild and they didn't have dog food that we feed them, they would eat that animal, okay? Because they are an omnivore. A dog is an omnivore. Cats are carnivores. Big cats like lions are carnivores. And what is the lifespan of a true carnivore? A lion can live up to 14 years. So you have to ask yourself, what is the impact of a carnivore diet on the human lifespan, considering that a carnivore in nature doesn't live very long in comparison to, let's say, an herbivore like an elephant, okay? An elephant can live up to 70 years in the wild and 88 years in captivity. And what do they eat? They're herbivores. They eat grass, hay, leaves, things like that. Okay, so a plant-based diet helps herbivores to live longer. So this is the last thing that I want to show you guys today. I found this little article that somebody wrote up. Maybe you're on the fence as to whether or not you think humans are carnivores, and you can give this a read because it's a really good kind of comparative analysis of whether humans are carnivores, omnivores, or herbivores. So it says the bottom line is that there have been many populations of humans that have thrived by eating a fully plant-based diet free of any animal flesh or products, and millions of modern humans eat the same way. The same cannot be said of diets composed completely of meat and animal products without any vegetables, carbs, or other plant-based foods. Following such a diet can lead to a seriously uncomfortable life due to nutrient deficiencies. Further evidence of the human propensity for a mainly herbivorous diet can be found in a range of human traits, including the digestive system. So they go through more detail here of just how to determine whether a human is an omnivore, an herbivore, or a carnivore. So what does this say here? What we know for sure is that there are people who thrive on plant-based diets and who avoid consuming not just meat, but all animal-derived products. There are also a great number of people who consume omnivorous diets consisting of both animal and plant-derived foods. The small population of purely carnivorous humans is made up primarily of those seeking to lose a large amount of weight quickly, which is who the carnivore diet crowd target, okay? Following a purely carnivorous diet void of any plant-derived ingredients and foods can lead to constipation due to lack of fiber, bad cholesterol, which I can attest to seeing a lot of in blood work, and increased risk of heart disease, as well as other diseases like cancer and diabetes and kidney failure, neuropathy, Alzheimer's disease. So please avoid getting your information from very, well credentialed people in, the medical system who don't have a lot of training in nutrition, because otherwise they wouldn't be promoting such a diet. I mean, unless it's a way for them to gain patients as well, because, they're just going to end up eating the foods that, they're suggesting, the animal-based foods, and then they're going to inevitably get sick, and then they're going to end up as patients. So maybe that's like part of the game as well. But anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Leave a comment or question down below. If you'd like my assistance with developing a healthy diet that is going to keep you lean, fit, and healthy for life effortlessly just by eating your species specific diet and living in a healthy, way lifestyle wise. Check out the links in the description of this video for my coaching services. Also, for those of you who've made it to the end of this video, I just put my coaching group, my private facing private Facebook coaching group on sale for the month of February for Valentine's Day because I love you all. So make sure you take advantage of that deal. It is a lifetime membership. So you're in my coaching group for life. It's a Q&A coaching group. So you can ask as many questions as you want. You can ask questions about my coaching program. You can ask personal questions. You can send me blood work, whatever it is that you need. I'm there to help you out. Okay. Thank you so much for watching this video. Give it a like, subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.